Hey, we're going to talk about no limits. Okay, there's two ways to look at it, a negative way and a positive way. Okay, you can do no limits, like no limits, or know your limits, no limits. Okay, so the negative way of looking at that would be there are no limits. I can do whatever I want. I can sleep with whoever I want. I can steal whatever I want. I can do whatever drug I want. I can, eat whatever I want. I have no limits. I can just do whatever. God's grace has freed me and forgiven me, and I'm good. That's having no limits. Definitely not a good way to live. Negative. So the negative way of knowing your limit would be going, I've already passed my limit, my time of grace. God's given up on me and I can't change. I'm going to always be on drugs, or I'm always going to be in this bad relationship, or my kids are never going to do the right thing. Why isn't God showing up for me? Because I've passed my limit. That's knowing your limits in a negative way. I have limits and I've passed them, and now God isn't going to be there for me. Okay, both of those are negative ways of looking at things. Now listen, I'm a positive person. I find the positive way to look at everything. I have all my life. It's who I am, and I'm super grateful to be that way, because to me it produces more positive things. Looking at the negative stuff never does anything worth talking about. It makes the situation worse. It gets you depressed and down, and I'm not into that. Anyway, so having no limits in a positive way is I can exercise as much as I want. I can eat as well as I decide to. I can choose to be content in any situation. I can forgive whoever does me wrong. That is having no limits with your brain power. Now, I'm not saying that you can do this all on your own, that you don't need the Holy Spirit to help you be the kind of person that overcomes the limits that the world puts on you. But I'm saying you have an extraordinary amount of brain power. And you can say, listen, I walk every day and I don't like it. I don't like getting sweaty. I don't like exercise. People say they get addicted to it. I go, well, it is not my drug of choice because I don't like it. But I don't like being fat and not looking good even more. And so I get up and I do the exercise. I say to myself, hey, you have no limits. You can do this. You get up and you do it. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what you think. Just walk, walk, walk. And I do it because that brain power gets me through that. And you can do that too in any situation. You just have to convince yourself that it's possible, that you're not underneath some limit. With God, all things are possible. All things are impossible. Terrible. With God, all things are possible. We serve a God of the impossible. Think of David and Goliath. David was a little shepherd boy, and he killed a giant with a slingshot. All the warriors of Israel were trying to kill the giant, and nobody could do anything. He was destroying everybody, and David said, I can do it. He got up there with the slingshot and the rock, and he slung it, and bam, knocked him out. One shot. No limits. Yes, the power of God was behind him. He did not do that on his own, but he was convinced that he could do it because he believed he served a God of the impossible. Daniel in the lion's den, if you don't know that story, he would not bow down and pray, and so they threw him in a lion's den. They bowed down and prayed to another god, and so they threw him in the lion's den, and God shut the mouth of the lion. When they came back to check on him the next day, he was fine. That is the God of the impossible. Noah and all the animals. Every story in the Bible is about the God of the impossible. He healed lame people. He made deaf people able to hear. He healed the blind. He raised the dead. There's nothing that God can't do. And so when you get to the place where you feel like this is more than I can handle, this is impossible, you have to say, I serve a God that is limitless, a God of the ridiculous that can do absolutely anything. And stand in that when you have human limitations. Stand in the limitless power of God. Okay, so that's the positive way of looking at that. No limits. Now, knowing your limits in a positive way is understanding that there are guidelines. There are things that you have to adhere to. You have to say no to. There's people, there's volunteer work, there's spending, there's shopping, there's social media or electronics. There's things we have to discipline ourselves about and know our limit and go, look, I've spoken 78 times this year and I'm exhausted. I want to enjoy the holidays and I need to get revamped and recirculated or whatever in my brain, re-strengthened for the next year. So I'm going to have to take some time off. I know my limit. And so this is my limit and I'm going to stop. God makes very clear to us what we can and can't do, but we've got to learn to listen to our hearts, listen to our minds, listen to our bodies, listen to the Spirit of God that lives within us. And when he says, hey, that's enough, we got to draw the line and know our limits. In your work, you have limits. In ministry, you have limits. In doing for others, there are limits. It is up to us. No one else is going to stick to a guideline that you don't stick to. So if you're the kind of person they can call to do anything, then guess who they're going to call when they need somebody to babysit the kids, or they need to borrow money, or they need somebody to run by the grocery store, or sew this, or fix that, or do their hair, or whatever it is you do. If somebody knows that you're not able to say no and you're not good at recognizing your limits, they'll take advantage of you. Okay, so we got knowing your limits and being a person of no limits. There's a positive and a negative to both of them. Be the kind of person who knows that you serve a God of the limitless, but also knows and respects the boundaries that he set up for you and that you've set up for yourself. Have a good week. It's important that we have a reason to wake up every day. It's amazing. I've experienced it, and so can you. Take your feelings to him. He's good. You can do it. It'll make a difference.